Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking through the NBA slate on Draftkings for Tuesday, March the 14th. We have an 8-game slate for Tuesday, so another mid-sized slate today. As always guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 8 games, give you guys my thoughts on the slate, what I do like, taking a first look on Monday night. But as always, before we get started with the breakdown, breaking down each one of these games, make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you guys enjoy these DFS videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you're new to the channel, if you've never checked out PrizePicks before, PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. You can use my promo code NOAH. When you do sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code, they will match your first deposit up to $100. And for those of you that have never heard about PrizePicks, they're a player prop site. Very simple, very easy to use. You're just making 2 picks on any sport you want, 2 picks, or you can make up to 6 picks. But it's a player prop site, so you're taking more or less on a player's projection. You can already see some of the props they have posted for Tuesday's games. You can see what's on the board right now. They have points props, rebounds, assists, PRA, 3-pointers made, ton of different categories, and obviously they offer a ton of other sports as well outside of just NBA. So you can take a look at some of the props they have for college basketball, the baseball classic that's going on right now, soccer, CSGO, League of Legends. They offer a ton. So get over to PrizePicks, guys. Check out their platform, see what they have to offer. When you make your first deposit, if you sign up and use my promo code, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through Tuesday's slate, and we'll start off with the first game of the night, Cleveland and Charlotte. So we just saw these two teams play on Sunday. They're playing again today. We'll start off on the Charlotte side. So Charlotte did not have Kelly Oubre last game, but he is probable, so he is expected to return for today. And Mark Williams remains out. He's been out, I think, like the last 2 or 3 games. He's out once again. So looking at Charlotte here, Terry Rozier obviously taking on a really big role right now without LaMelo Ball. The price tag at $8,300 though, I think is appropriate for this matchup. This is not a spot I really like to target. Cleveland, they've been a good defensive team this year, one of the better defensive teams in the league. I know Rozier had a good game on Sunday, but without Kelly Oubre, I think that really helped Rozier. Now that Oubre's coming back, I think that cuts down Rozier's ceiling a little bit. Not a guy that I'm really prioritizing today. Kelly Oubre, first game back from injury. I know it was just like a back injury. It seemed like it was just a minor thing. He was a late scratch. He seems to be fine. I don't think this injury is going to affect his play. But the price tag and the matchup doesn't really make Oubre stand out today. Same with the rest of these guys, Hayward, Washington. The guy that looks really good from Charlotte is Nick Richards. Nick Richards has started the last 3 games without Mark Williams. Or technically, he started the last 2 games, but the game against Detroit, that was the game that Mark Williams got injured in. Last 3 games, though, where Nick Richards has got full minutes, 29 minutes, 33 DraftKings points, 30 minutes, 32 DraftKings points. Last game in this matchup against Cleveland, 32 minutes, 42 DraftKings points. Cleveland, they don't have Jared Allen right now, so I think this matchup is a little bit better than you might think. He's going to go up against Evan Mobley, who's a really strong defender, but I still think Richards, with how good of a permanent producer he is, we've seen when he gets playing time, he can really stuff the stat sheet, and he's a guy that can put up well over a fantasy point per minute. At $5K, I think Nick Richards is still way too cheap here. He is definitely one of the better plays on the slate. He stands out as a strong option, but really nothing else from Charlotte I'm going to. And now on the Cleveland side, it's a really good matchup for Cleveland, so we're going to want to target some guys here, I think, but you look at the price tags, nobody's coming in that cheap. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's $9,600. Mitchell was kind of a bust last slate, even in a good matchup. Played just 33 minutes, had 34 DK points. Even though he busted last slate, I think Mitchell's fine to go to today, but you're not getting him at a discount. You're paying the full price for him. So at $9,600, he's just more of a GPP play. Evan Mobley should have a really big role without Jared Allen, but he's priced correctly as well at $8,100. I think if Mobley was $7,200, he'd be a lot more appealing. At this price tag, I mean, you need him to put up 45, 50 DraftKings points to be worth the salary. And can he do that against Charlotte? He absolutely can. But I wouldn't consider Mobley a priority today. I think he's firmly in play though. Darius Garland at $7,900, probably my favorite play from Cleveland. He played 39 minutes last game, been playing massive minutes lately. Matchup's obviously great here. I think all these Cleveland guys are viable, but I think Garland's probably my favorite. I think at his price tag, he offers the most value from a points per dollar basis. And then the rest of Cleveland, I don't see too much else here worth going to. They did start Lamar Stevens last game in place of Jared Allen. He played 30 minutes, had 21 DraftKings points. He's still pretty cheap, so if you want to go to Lamar Stevens, he's okay, but he's never been a good permanent producer. Even if he plays 30 minutes again, it's not a guarantee that he's going to put up, even remotely good of a score to be worth playing. But at 3,500, it's going to be hard for him to just completely tank your lineup. Even if he puts up 15 DraftKings points, I mean, that's not going to kill you. But I would be very surprised if Lamar Stevens is like the reason that you win a GPP. If Lamar Stevens goes out there and puts up 40, you just accept it and you just move on to the next slate. He's a guy that I really never get excited to roster, even though he's starting. And the rest of Cleveland, I'm not super interested in. So let's go ahead and talk about the next game, Detroit and Washington. So we'll start off on the Washington side for the Wizards today. Kyle Kuzma, I think, is probable for this game, or he's actually questionable. So we'll have to monitor Kyle Kuzma's status. If Kyle Kuzma does sit here, obviously a bigger role will be in store for Porzingis, for Bradley Beal, and then I assume Denny Avdia would pick up some more minutes in place of Kyle Kuzma. Denny Avdia is really cheap, 4K. It's a great matchup against Detroit. He would look like a really, really good value here if Kyle Kuzma got ruled out. So those would kind of be the guys I'd look to first if Kuzma sits. The rest of Washington, DeLon Wright, Daniel Gafford, Monte Morris, none of these guys are super appealing. If Kyle Kuzma plays, you could go to Kuzma here in a pretty good matchup. I think Porzingis, Beal, and Kuzma are all viable regardless, just because the spot against Detroit is great. Detroit's defense has been one of the worst defensive teams in the league this season. I know Bradley Beal's had like a really, really big role lately. He's been playing massive minutes, been taking a ton of shots. It's a great matchup for him. If I had to rank the Washington guys, assuming Kuzma plays, I think I would rank them Beal number 1, then Porzingis, then Kuzma. If Kuzma is out, then I would probably rank them, probably, honestly, Denny Avdia number 1 just because of the value he provides, then Beal, and then Porzingis. But, yeah, we're going to have to monitor the Kuzma status. That's kind of important for today. Now, on the other side with Detroit, it's really tough to break down Detroit right now. We don't really know who's going to be in or out for Detroit. It's a back-to-back for them. They played on Monday night. They had a ton of guys out Monday. Don't know if, a lot of these guys that were out Monday, if they're going to be out again. I know Jaden Ivey, he's out right now with health and safety protocols, so I assume he probably is out again today. Marvin Bagley did not play. It looks like Bagley's going to miss the next few games, so he should be out today. Bojan, I think there's a chance he could be out for like the rest of the season. I mean, there's really no point in even bringing him back just because Detroit has nothing to play for. So I think for the most part, we can expect pretty much everyone that was ruled out Monday to be out again today. So there's going to be a lot worth targeting here from Detroit. James Wiseman, price tag did come up to $6,900, but he's going to have a big role without Marvin Bagley, without Isaiah Stewart. The minutes should be there. He had a great game on Monday night against Indiana, played 24 minutes, had 43 DraftKings points. He's not been getting like massive minutes lately, but Wiseman throughout his career, when he's been in the league, he's been a good permanent producer. He's a guy that can average over a fantasy point per minute. The price tag bump up to $6,900 does not make him stand out on this slate, but I still think he is a playable option. Killian Hayes, though, I do like quite a bit. Killian Hayes was kind of a bust on Monday, but he did lose some minutes because I think he might have gotten injured in that game. He didn't go to the locker room, but he sat out for a while. Ultimately, wound up playing 29 minutes. He got off to a really hot start, then kind of cooled off in the second half, didn't do much in the second half, but right now he's going to have like the offense to himself. He's going to have a great role. The price tag at $6,200, you could argue is still too cheap for him right now with all these guys out. So I still think Killian Hayes looks really appealing. Isaiah Livers got into some early foul trouble, had a very poor shooting game. He should play big minutes here, barring random foul trouble again. The price tag's at $5,500 now, so I don't think Livers stands out at this price tag, but I still think he is a playable option. Jalen Duren, even coming off the bench in limited minutes, went out there and smashed, put up 36 DK points in 24 minutes. Seems like him and Wiseman are pretty much going to split the center minutes, so there's potential for both those guys to have a good game here. Matchup against Washington is pretty good for centers. I don't mind going to Duren at $5,500. And then the rest of Detroit, the other guy that I really want to mention that I like for value is Eugene Omoyori. He's $3,800. He started, played 32 minutes, and was really good, had 34 DraftKings points. I assume he'll start again here, and at $3,800, he looks like a pretty good value play. When he was on OKC, whenever he did get playing time, he was a decent permanent producer. Wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. Obviously, the price tag's really low. The minutes should be there with how shorthanded Detroit is right now. So I think at $3,800, Omoyori looks like a pretty good value play. So those are kind of the guys I'm looking to on Detroit here. Detroit, again, they're going to be shorthanded for this game. They might only have like 9 or 10 available players. We'll have to see who is all in. I'm assuming all these guys that sat out Monday are going to be out again today, which means you're definitely going to want to get some exposure to Detroit here just because they are shorthanded. But I think that's it for the Pistons. We didn't really talk about Corey Joseph. Not a guy that I'm super interested in. I know he had a really good game Monday, but he's never been the best permanent producer. He also might have benefited with Killian Hayes getting banged up a little bit. I think Joseph's minutes might come down a little bit here. Again, a $5,300 playable option, but definitely not my favorite play from Detroit. Favorite plays from Detroit for me are for sure Killian Hayes and Omoyori. Those are the two guys I like most. But let's move on to the next game, talk about Denver and Toronto. So looking at the Raptors here, I don't like too much on the Raptors today. They're pretty much fully healthy right now, and when they're fully healthy, they're going to run a tight rotation. They're going to play like 8 or 9 guys. We can expect most of the starters to play pretty big minutes. Siakam, Van Vliet obviously should play huge minutes here. The price tag on Siakam has come down. His production's also come down, though, and really ever since they acquired Jakob Poeltl, Siakam has just not been producing at the same rate that he was before. It's hard to trust Siakam right now until we see him have a good game, and I don't want to fall into box score watching, but man, like you look at his game log, it's really ugly. I mean, he hasn't had more than 43 DraftKings points in like 7 straight games, and 8,600. Even though this is a cheaper price on Siakam, I have my temptations on Siakam right now. I'm tempering my expectations, I should say. I just really don't know what we're going to get from him. And then Van Vliet, we know he's going to play massive minutes here. I think if I had to choose one of him or Siakam, I'd rather go to Van Vliet, but neither one of these guys are priority plays for me. Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl both feel priced about right. Poeltl's minutes have been a little bit more secure lately, but matchup against Jokic is scary, plus there's foul trouble risk as well. Not super interested in Poeltl, not really interested in many other Raptors today. Don't see too much to like here. Now, on the other side with Denver, we're going to have to monitor the status of Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is listed as questionable for this game. If Jamal Murray does not play, that should mean more minutes for Bruce Brown, more minutes for Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, I believe, is also questionable, or he's probable, so he's expected to play. Don't know who would start in place of in place of Jamal Murray. It's normally been Bruce Brown, but with Reggie Jackson now on the team, I guess they could go to Reggie Jackson. But I think for the most part, if Jamal Murray is out, expect more minutes for both those guys. I think Bruce Brown, assuming he starts, would be a really good play at 5,100. I would have a lot of interest in him. He's got shooting guard and small forward eligibility, so really fits into a lot of lineup builds. But if Jamal Murray's in, I don't see too much to like from Denver outside of like Jokic. I think Jokic is a guy that you can kind of always go to. Just massive upside, playing massive minutes every night. Dude's putting up a triple-double like every single night right now. He's just doing everything. I don't love the spot against Toronto. Toronto did a really good job slowing down Jokic last time they played. But again, it's Jokic. He can put up 70, 80 DraftKings points any night. So he's still fine to go to. But there's really no priority plays coming from Denver, I don't think. Obviously, if Jamal Murray gets ruled out, then I think Bruce Brown would become a priority play, assuming that he would start at point guard. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Brooklyn and OKC. So for this one, we'll start off on the OKC side. OKC, they did not have SGA last game, but he is back for today. I think at 9,400, SGA looks like a decent pay-up option here. There was reports like there was reports a couple weeks ago or like a week ago that SGA was going to have his minutes limited like rest of the season, and that's really not been the case. He's playing full minutes, so I think we kind of expect SGA to play 36, 38 minutes here, barring foul trouble or a blowout. The price tag's come down a little bit to 9,400. Don't love the matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn has some really good defenders. Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, both really good defenders, but the guy's going to have a massive role. He's going to play big minutes. The offense is going to run through him. He's definitely my favorite play on OKC. Giddey's up to 8K, which I think is about right for him, especially with SGA playing. Jalen Williams has been great, but obviously with SGA back, not super interested in him. Not super interested in really anyone else on OKC. Again, if I'm playing anyone on OKC today, it's going to be SGA. Now, on the other side with Brooklyn, there's a couple guys that I think are interesting from Brooklyn here. Mikal Bridges probably going to draw the matchup against Lou Dort. Don't love that spot for Bridges, but man, Bridges' role has just been so good with Brooklyn. He's playing like 40 minutes a night. He's taking 20-plus shots a night. He's just been a completely different player, been way more aggressive offensively. The price tag is 7,800. I still think there's some meat on the bone on this salary. I think Bridges still has the upside to pay off the salary, so I'm definitely interested in Mikal Bridges. Don't mind Dinwiddie either, but I think Bridges probably the guy that I'd rather go to between those two. Really, really good spot for Nick Claxton. I know Claxton's minutes have kind of been all over the place lately, but we did see him get 35 minutes against Minnesota. I think that was an overtime game, but he's still been playing about 30 minutes a night, and this is a really good matchup against an OKC team that struggles to rebound, gives up a lot of putbacks. This is a spot where I think Claxton should be able to feast. And last time they faced OKC, he played 33 minutes. He had 41 DraftKings points. The price tag is 6,600. I still think there's upside for Claxton at this price tag, especially in this favorable matchup. So him and Mikal Bridges are my two favorite plays from Brooklyn. Cam Johnson, he's had a bigger role lately, but obviously the price tag has kind of caught up to that point. He's 6,100 now. There's really nothing else that looks that great on Brooklyn. Definitely my two favorite plays are Bridges and Claxton. But let's move on to the next game, talk about the Lakers and the Pelicans. So for the Pelicans today, going to need to keep an eye on the status of Brandon Ingram. Ingram listed as questionable here. I think he's been out their last 2 games. So without Brandon Ingram, if he were to be out again, we could expect a really big role for CJ McCollum. More opportunity for Jonas Valanciunas, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, those guys as well. CJ McCollum would definitely be my favorite play from New Orleans if Ingram were to get ruled out. McCollum drawing a great matchup here against the Lakers. Lakers play at a fast pace, so I think it's a really good spot for McCollum. The price tag at 8K, you could argue is still too low here if Ingram remains out. So McCollum would definitely be my favorite play from the Pelicans if Ingram sits. I don't mind going to Jonas Valanciunas, though. I know the minutes for JVal have kind of been all over the place. He's more of a GPP option, but he should be productive in the minutes that he gets. The matchup against the Lakers is a little bit scary just because he probably is going to guard AD, and AD could draw fouls on Jonas Valanciunas. But last time they faced the Lakers, or not last time, but the previous time, he put up 44 DK points in only 24 minutes. Look, we know JVal's a good permanent producer. You never know how many minutes he's going to play, but he's viable in GPPs. Trey Murphy had a really big game last game. He was on fire, shot 9 for 14 from 3. I would temper my expectations. I think it's 6K. Trey Murphy's priced correctly here. Not a great option, even if Ingram's out. Same goes for like Herb Jones. I think he's priced about right, but he did have a good game as well last game. 35 DK points in 31 minutes. These guys are all going to play big minutes, so there's some upside for all of them, but the price has kind of caught up to where they should be. I think my favorite play from the Pelicans, assuming that Ingram is out again, would be Najee Marshall. Now, Najee Marshall, the last 2 games, has started, and he's not been that great. Played 36 minutes against OKC, had just 26 DK points. Last game against Portland, he was very bad. Played 28 minutes, only had 13 DK points. But Najee Marshall has been a pretty good permanent producer and a guy that can produce when he's on the floor. And the minutes have been there in the games that he has started. So if Ingram is out, I think Marshall and McCollum are my 2 favorite plays from the Pelicans. The rest of those guys we talked about are just kind of like GPP options. Now, looking to the other side of this game with the Lakers, obviously for the Lakers right now, no LeBron. We can expect a really, really big role for Anthony Davis. I think it's a really good matchup for Anthony Davis. Last time they played the Pelicans, he had a really big game, 55 DK points in only 30 minutes. The game before that, he put up 63 DK points in 38 minutes. I know the Pelicans have been a good matchup for centers all season. They've been giving up a lot of fancy points to the center position, so I think it's a great spot for AD. The usage is going to be great without LeBron. The offense is going to run through him. He's definitely a strong pay-up option today. And then D'Angelo Russell, I think, is really solid as well. We've seen the last 2 games, and really ever since Russell came back from his injury, he's been great. 31 minutes, 35 minutes, 49, 54 Draftkings points. He's been taking a ton of shots. He's been assisting well. He's been grabbing some rebounds too. Russell's a guy that can average well over a fantasy point per minute, and especially right now playing without LeBron, I expect Russell to be productive when he's on the floor. He's one of their top options on offense right now behind Anthony Davis, and the minutes are just, they're going to keep going up. I mean, I think 35, 36 minutes is very likely here for Russell if this game is competitive. So really like D'Angelo Russell today, like Anthony Davis as well. Now, the rest of the Lakers, I'm not super interested in, like Schroeder, Vanderbilt, Reeves. Some of these bench guys, like Reeves has had some good games lately, but I think the price tag's kind of adjusted for that. Malik Beasley's kind of been a disappointment, not really being able to get much going. Nothing else stands out here, so we can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Spurs and the Magic. 2 bad teams going up against each other, but this is going to be a fun game to target for DFS because you have 2 teams that don't really play a ton of defense. We'll start off on the San Antonio side. So for the Spurs today, Jeremy Sohan and Keldon Johnson were both out last game. They're both listed as questionable for today, I do believe. They're both listed as questionable, so this is going to be something to monitor. If Keldon Johnson plays, it's a great matchup, so I think he's fine to go to a 6,700, but I would temper my expectations a little bit on Keldon now that Devin Vassell is back and playing kind of full minutes. But I still think Keldon's fine if he plays. Zach Collins at 6,300, I think is priced about right here. He had a really big game last game against OKC, but that was a much easier matchup. Orlando, they actually have been pretty solid defensively against centers this season. That's kind of been their strongest point on defense, so not super interested in Collins. Devin Vassell, I think, looks really good here if Keldon's out again. I know Vassell was really bad last game, but that was kind of a tough matchup against Lou Dort, who's a strong defender. Much better matchup here against Orlando. I would definitely like going back to Vassell, even if, assuming that Keldon is out again. Even though Vassell busted last slate, the role is going to be really good. The minutes are trending up. I would have a lot of interest in him. Now, the rest of the Spurs, I don't see too much else worth going to here, but I do want to mention that last game, Devontae Graham did start at point guard, played 32 minutes, had 31 Draftkings points. I will say that if Keldon's back and if Sohan's back, I would temper my expectations a little bit on Devontae Graham, but without Trey Jones, it seems like they are going to continue to start Graham at point guard, and if he does start at point guard, I think we have to assume he's going to play about 30 minutes, and Graham, he's been pretty productive with the Spurs this season, so I still think he looks pretty good at 5K. I would like him more if Keldon and Sohan got ruled out, but I still think he's in play regardless. And then Keita Bates-Diop, he's one of those guys you could go to if both Keldon and Sohan are out. If they play, no interest in KBD. Really no interest in really anyone else on San Antonio. Now on the other side of this game with Orlando, I don't see too much worth going to on the Spurs here, or on the Magic here, but I think, guys you can consider in tournaments are Paolo Banchero, Markelle Fultz, Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, the matchup is really, really good. I haven't been targeting many Magic lately, but this is such a good spot that I could definitely see going to somebody on Orlando here, because I think it's likely that somebody does well from Orlando given the good matchup. I think Banchero is priced about right for this spot, but his minutes have been pretty good lately. This is a game that Orlando should be able to keep competitive. So I think Paolo Banchero is fine. I think Markelle Fultz is fine. Favorite play on Orlando is probably Wendell Carter Jr. This has been a great matchup for centers going up against the Spurs. I know that the Spurs this season, in terms of like fantasy points allowed to the center position, I think they're giving up the second most fantasy points to centers this year. So it's a really good spot for Wendell Carter Jr. The price tag at $6,300 definitely feels a little bit too low for this matchup. He's probably my favorite play on Orlando, followed by Banchero, followed by Fultz. And then the rest of the Magic, I mean, if you want to take some shots on like a Cole Anthony or a Jalen Suggs and GPPs, I guess you could, but these are just guys that I think are worth targeting in GPP option or as GPP options. I don't see any other priority plays coming from this Magic team. So I think that'll do it for the Magic. Franz Wagner is questionable for this game. Forgot to mention this. If Franz Wagner does play, he's viable, I guess. He's been showing a little bit more of a ceiling lately. The matchup obviously is great, but I haven't really been on Wagner much at all this season. It's just the upside has not really been there. If Wagner does get ruled out, that would probably mean more minutes for Jalen Suggs. I think a guy like Suggs would definitely look a lot more appealing if Wagner did get ruled out. Obviously, Markelle Fultz, Wendell Carter Jr., Paolo Banchero, those guys would be even better plays. But we'll have to keep an eye on that Wagner news. I think it is somewhat important here since obviously the matchup is great for Orlando. But let's go ahead and talk about the last two games of the night. So starting off with Milwaukee and Phoenix, this is a game we're definitely going to have to monitor the injury report for, specifically on the Milwaukee side. Both these teams are on a back-to-back. I think we can expect Phoenix to have all their guys here, but Milwaukee, I'm expecting Milwaukee to probably sit somebody. Giannis was questionable Monday night. He wound up playing, but there's a good chance on a back-to-back he might sit here. We might see like Drew Holiday sit. I mean, it's a tough game to break down right now. Looking at Phoenix, I think Phoenix is going to have all their guys available. Without Kevin Durant right now, I mean, that's going to be more an opportunity for Devin Booker, for Chris Paul, for DeAndre Ayton. But this is not the greatest matchup against Milwaukee, and I think all these guys are priced kind of where they should be. Booker's $10,100, Paul's $7,500, Ayton's $7,400. Nothing looks that great from Phoenix here. If I was going to play anyone on the Suns, it would be one of the main three guys, Booker, Paul, Ayton. I think my favorite would probably be Paul, just given the price tag and given his production lately without Durant's been really good. But I'm not seeing any priority plays coming from Phoenix. And then on the other side with Milwaukee, like I said, I mean, we just have no idea who's going to be able to, or who's going to be playing here. We've seen Milwaukee rest guys on back-to-backs. Giannis was questionable Monday, played. Maybe he plays today, maybe he doesn't. If everyone is healthy for Milwaukee, nothing looks that great here because with Giannis back, I mean, Drew, Middleton, Lopez, these guys are all overpriced with Giannis back now. Giannis himself at $12K you could go to, I guess, but not the greatest matchup against Phoenix, and I think Giannis is kind of priced to his like max ceiling right now. Plus, there's not there's some value on the slate, but there's not like a ton of value to where it's going to be really easy to jam in Giannis. But clearly, Giannis is one of these guys who can just kind of play any slate. He can put up a huge game any night. If both these teams have all their guys available, like this should be a fun game to watch. But for DFS, it's going to be a tough game to get too invested in. Again, I think there could be some guys that get ruled out from Milwaukee, so that would obviously change some things. But we don't really have that information right now when I'm making this video on a Monday night, so we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on it. But let's go ahead and talk about the last game of the night, the Knicks and the Blazers. So for Portland today, we got to monitor some news here. Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant, I believe, are both questionable for this game. Portland, right now, they seem to be just kind of like punting the season. Dame's been sitting these last few games. I don't know what Portland's like motivation is right now. I guess we just kind of have to assume that Dame and Grant are playing, but if they don't, I mean, there's going to be a lot to like from Portland. Now, Dame, if he plays, I have a lot of interest in. I mean, he's been great lately when he's been healthy. Obviously, with Jeremy Grant, playing, assuming he does play, with Anthony Simons back, that cuts into Dame's ceiling a little bit. But Dame's going to play huge minutes here. I think the matchup against the Knicks is okay. I don't mind going to Dame today if he's in. If he's not, then we'll have to look to guys like Simons, Cam Reddish. Simons would definitely be my favorite play from the Blazers if Dame is out. We did see them start Simons at point guard last game. Simons was not great, but his production without Dame should be really good. Minutes should be really good. Hopefully, Portland can keep this game competitive. I would like Simons the most. Nurkic is a tough guy to trust right now. His minutes have just been all over the place. Played 26 minutes one game, then the next game plays 10 minutes. Just doesn't seem like Portland really wants to give Nurkic huge minutes right now, so I'm not super interested in Nurkic regardless. Cam Reddish, I think if Dame is out again, is someone we could look to. He was disappointing last slate, but he did start. Did lose some minutes because of the blowout. I think Reddish would probably play 30-plus minutes here. It's a revenge game for him as well. If Dame's out, I think Reddish is fine to go to. But nothing else from the Blazers looks great. Matisse Thybulle, I'll probably pass on. We'll have to keep an eye on Jeremy Grant's status, because if Jeremy Grant and Dame are out, I don't know what Portland would do with the starting lineup. I guess they would go with Simons, Reddish, Thybulle, Nurkic, and then maybe like a Nasir Little. So like if Grant's out and Dame is out, and then Nasir Little starts, like he's only 3,300. I think he'd be a pretty good value play. So lot to kind of keep an eye on here. Right now, there's not a ton to love on Portland, but that would change if Dame and Grant, if one of those two guys or both of them, got ruled out. Now on the other side with the Knicks, it looks like the Knicks once again are not going to have Jalen Brunson. He is doubtful for today. So we can expect more opportunity for Julius Randle, Manuel Quickley, Jalen Brunson. Julius Randle was great last game against the Lakers, had a huge game, 52 DK points, played 36 minutes. This matchup against Portland, I think, is pretty solid, and especially if they don't have Jeremy Grant, that's going to pretty much take their best defender off the floor. I don't mind going to Julius Randle here. Not a priority play, but I think he is fine to go to. Emmanuel Quickley should play massive minutes. The price tag is caught up to where it should be. I think it's 7,100. Quickley, not a priority today, but he is definitely still viable just because he is going to play a ton, and we've seen him be really good in the games without Brunson this season. RJ Barrett has also been really good in the games without Brunson this season. He's priced to 7K, which I think is about right, but I still think he's playable. Nothing else worth targeting on the Knicks, though. I know Josh Hart's been playing well off the bench, been getting more minutes. You can maybe go to him in GPPs, but I would rather target the other guys. I don't see too much else to like on the Knicks today besides, Randle, Quickley, and Barrett. So that'll do it for that game, guys, and that'll do it for this Tuesday night 8-game slate. Hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. Appreciate you guys watching these DFS videos as always. Make sure you hit that like button down below. If you guys enjoyed, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you guys are new to the channel, if you haven't checked out PrizePicks before, PrizePicks, sponsor of the video, you guys can sign up for PrizePicks. You can use my promo code NOAH. When you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. Check them out if you guys have not yet. See all the player props they have to offer for Tuesday's games and see if there's anything else anything that stands out to you that's on the board right now. But yeah, that's all that I got for this slate, guys. Best of luck on this slate, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.